Okay, so here is the second part of Chapter Nine's lecture where we're talking about food and hunger and global issues. Last lecture, we were talking about things like BMI and how do we calculate that and what does it mean. And the idea is trying to figure out what's good for each of us individually that will benefit us long term. How do we maintain long term health over the course of our whole life and try to be as healthy as possible? It has huge ecological and environmental consequences. The healthier we are, the less impact we tend to have environmentally. We don't need as much medication, we don't need as much hospitalization, you're more productive at work, all sorts of things that are beneficial about being as healthy as possible. So the idea and the hope is to educate people, not just in the US, but globally, about balanced diets and how to eat healthy and be nutritious. Challenge though, let's list out some of these challenges associated with eating healthy. So let me get a little box going here. And these are some of the same things we talked about in the other lectures when we talk about farming and some of those concepts. They all tie together. And that's the idea is the goal is making sure we understand and see those connections. So challenges to eating healthy. Cost. Think about what does it cost to get organic versus pesticide sprayed foods? What does it cost to get fresh fruit versus here's processed? Availability. How easy is it to get fresh fruit and nutritious stuff that's locally grown instead of shipped in from somewhere else and transported halfway across the world? Convenience slash, oh, make sure I spell that right. Convenience slash time. Do we have time to prepare a good meal that's healthy and nutritious and that's made with, food that's not grown with pesticides and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and all those problems we've talked about. So these are just real issues. All right. So then, what about exercise? How many people have exercise in their diet, or just our activity level? All right, that varies from person to person. But how often are we active and busy? Physically exerting enough energy to burn the calories we consume. We bring in 3,500 calories. We only burn 2,500. You got 1,000 extra calories coming into your body every day. That leads to some long-term health problems. Here and there, go splurge. Get that Blizzard at Dairy Queen. Have some of that cake. Have some of that candy, whatever, once in a while. It's just the challenge is the lifestyle. If we have that as a constant in our lives, then it can lead to long-term health problems. All right, so other issues, most of the food we purchase are generally high. Oh, that should be high. Most of the foods we purchase are high-calorie foods. Go to the vending machine. Go grab something out of the vending machine and take a look at how many calories are in a bag of chips, a bag of pretzels, candy bar. Heck, a bottle of Mountain Dew, 240 calories. That's a lot of calories for one bottle. How many do we drink in the course of a day? Oh, I'm going to grab that quick snack, bag of chips and Mountain Dew. Usually 500 to 600 calories just for that quick snack. But again, the problem is you can't go grab that quick apple out of the vending machine and have 100 calories and a nutritious apple versus processed refined foods that are high calorie foods. So all of these things combine together to create and lead to health issues for our country as well as global health issues. Now, sometimes people have food, but they don't get the right types and they suffer from malnourishment. Okay, so malnourishment, you're maybe getting enough calories, but they're not balanced. You don't have nutritional level or leveling of your nutrition, the different things you need, vitamins, minerals, etc. It's estimated over 3 billion people suffer from vitamin, mineral, or protein deficiencies. So the goiter in that woman's neck is due to an iron deficiency. The child there has marasmus, doesn't have enough protein in his diet, and that's why he's skinny, thin. You can see the ribs, thin arms, gaunt kind of figure. It's a protein deficiency. He may be getting a bunch of calories, but they're not coming in balanced. So if you don't have all of the ingredients, the right building blocks, you can't build and keep your body healthy. So yeah, I got the calories, but it was all through carbs or through this or that source. You need proteins, you need fats, you need carbs to maintain a healthy diet. So iron deficiency is the most common dietary issue in the world. This is global. So that one right there, big one to remember. Iron deficiency. Do we have enough iron in our diet? Lack of iron or low levels of iron can lead to anemia. You have insufficient hemoglobin in the blood. Hemoglobin carries the oxygen content through the bloodstream. So if I don't have enough oxygen, I tend to be tired, weak. I don't have the energy I need. If this is happening at a young age during development, that reduces your physical development as well as intellectual development. That translates to later in life a decrease in productivity. So what happens during childhood impacts us throughout our whole life if we have an iron deficiency. Or if we go back to our previous lecture and talk about, did you get exposed to pesticides early on in childhood? What kind of long-term consequences will that type of thing have? So, like I said, the challenge here is trying to figure out how to make the food we produce available to the entire population. The production is pretty good. It's the distribution. We don't have even distribution across the planet. We have areas that have way too much food and areas that don't have enough. And there's surplus in some areas and deficit, famines, shortages in other areas. And that is a significant environmental challenge, is trying to balance that out and get those resources to the areas that are lacking them, but do it without compromising the stability of the areas that have them. So there's a huge environmental task for you guys to think about and to conquer in the future. So, all right, so last thing to mention, just briefly, we'll talk a little bit about this here, and then we'll continue talking about it in class. When we look at food, 3 crops provide the vast majority of food for the human population: wheat, rice, and corn. Those are your big 3. Can't stress it enough. Wheat, rice, corn. Get the hint? Wheat, rice, corn. Big 3. Okay, this is what delivers the majority of nutrients to the human population. So our challenge is, again, can we get it distributed? Can we pass this out? Can it get spread across the population evenly? Corn is the most abundant crop in the U.S. This is our number 1. Corn number 1. And then soy is number 2 in the U.S. Sorry about how the typing looks. It's not easy to do with the mouse here. And then wheat is number 3 in the U.S. We don't do rice. That's not something we grow in the U.S. Or we grow very, very minimal amounts of rice in the U.S. We don't have the right biome. See how I brought that in? We don't have the right biome or biomes to grow rice in large-scale cultivation. But we have the right biome for corn, wheat, and soybeans. So those are the most abundant crops for us. Now, wheat and rice combined produce about 60% of the total calories and nutrition, calories consumed globally, nutrients out there for the global population. Again, think about India and China, Asia, that part of the world, heavily dependent upon rice. They don't do a whole lot of corn over there or wheat. It's mostly rice. Get into Western Europe, North America, a little bit in Central and South America. Then you get into corn, some rice or some wheat, some soy as well. All right, so those are the big key food sources. We want to keep that in mind. There's pros and cons. We're essentially making monocultures. Is that really good environmentally to depend on just three? What happens if pests develop resistance and now all of a sudden we have a massive loss in our corn harvest or our wheat harvest or rice? So some definitely some negatives for us to be so dependent upon just three different crops. So when we get together next week, I'm sorry, get together on later in the week, we will talk about how the increased productivity of these crops has driven the meat market and the pros and cons of meat production. What are the good things about it? And what are the potentially negative things about increasing meat production? So, all right. So again, make sure, get some notes off of this stuff. Go back over the videos as often as you want to, but make sure you're comfortable with the content. You may want to grab that review sheet out in Blackboard and fill that out while you're watching the video or play and pause the video to get that content into that review sheet.